So, Nitin, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to talk to all of you, especially in the forum that is being set up as a week-long FDP program under the auspices of the Mechanical Engineering Department at Sveri. And why it is a little bit more closer to my heart is because it's about two things. One is, of course, innovation, because the subject for this afternoon is unlocking innovation, exploring research, innovation, and patents. And second one is it is by the mechanical engineering department, where I am also a mechanical engineer. So naturally, the born homie sort of makes it a lot more exciting to be here. Uh, Without much ado, today I would like to share my points of views of thought processes in terms of unlocking innovation, especially how research and innovation practices and patents can come together to to all of us in like I'm considering all of us like India to unlock innovation such that we can move at a much faster pace towards our futuristic goals. So just taking a step back and then looking from the nation perspective about the Indian ecosystem, or especially the innovative ecosystem, we all are aware of some of these numbers being coming into the foray once in a while. But what most sort of satisfying or makes us feel a lot more proud is that we are now considered as one of the top 50 innovative nations in the world. Might not be that big a deal yet, but I guess we will inch by inch move towards the top line, and that is the hope and wish. And I think today's workshop and the efforts put in by all the faculty members who are a part of this and others who get influenced by the concept of innovation will take India definitely to the next level. And that is the one larger aim of this kind of workshops also, I suppose. And also the innovation doesn't happen in itself, so definitely requires substantial amount of financial thing. India has been a very what do you call out of focus in terms of its R&D budget. But last year budget has been about $4 billion US, and I think that's the highest so far. Gives a glimpse of hope that, okay, things are changing and probably they will change for good. So that's a great start. So we are at the 46th innovative nation, and hopefully we will inch up. And also we are putting substantial funding into the efforts of being better known as the innovation hub going forward. And incidentally, this just doesn't happen by itself. There are like top global 200 institutions. India has about 6 of them. Now, should we be happy that we have only 6 or we have 6? That is again up to debate. But the question is, we started with almost 1, I think, Indian Institute of Science, but today we have 6 in the top 200. But definitely this number can go up, and probably will go up as we go along. And one other side or a facet of the Indian growth story is the startups. We are riding this success story from last at least 5 years. And I usually used to talk about the Indian startup ecosystem and its prospects and growth in most of our exchange programs with the US and China. And since because of that, I had to study year on year. And what I could see was the dramatic difference between a few years ago that I used to speak as to the recent one that I speak, that the numbers are changing, the amount of funding coming into the startups are changing and increasing rather. And currently there are about 20,000 of them, are a roundabout number. And incidentally, about 1/4 of them are in technology-led startups. Why this matters is because that shows that the 20,000 has a good spectrum of social and tech led startups, which is a good news for India, because as we all know, we are inching to be the world's populist country. By November, I think we will hit that. And with so many people, we definitely need some real innovation on the social side. But at the same time, technology is the driver for all that we do. So naturally, the startups are mimicking that need of India and the Indian society in terms of having a good number of startups in the technology area, a good number of startups in the social side as well. India has missed some good opportunities in the past, like semiconductor wave that we absolutely went unaware of. However, as you probably are aware, new trends are being followed with the new excitement and vigor. For example, AI and ML. I have heard and seen many institutions are offering now undergrad degrees in AI and ML. And of course, your master's program can be focused on these. I mean, that shows that probably India will not look to lose any more opportunities which can take it to the next level of innovation platform. So that is precisely where, as a nation, we are, right? And then let's take one step towards what's happening outside of India, just to connect things. Now, as you all know, we have a lot of challenges in the world, especially the United Nations has sustainable development goals, SDGs, and it covers end-to-end human needs, including security to food, to water, then the weather conditions, and you can the forest. So all these things, not that they were not there before, but imagine in the last 100 years, the number of mouths to be fed have probably doubled or even more. That puts a tremendous amount of challenge in our hand. So everything has to be scaled up to that level of offering, whether it is food or water supply and transportation. Just take anything, we have a challenge. However, from the innovation perspective, the World Economic Forum says that there are certain priority areas, because these are cutting across these verticals of SDGs, like technology, right? I mean, everybody needs it. Climate change, looking from a perspective of how remedial actions can be taken, how innovation at the grassroots level can help change this, ocean resources and harnessing them, ensuring that the biodiversity stays, so that we really don't mess up with our natural habitats anymore. Then, of course, on the technology side, the cybersecurity, industry, governance, and then, of course, geopolitical and geoeconomic cooperation. So, if you look into these things, they're all embedded into one another. They don't stay in silos. But what is that is driving these things? How are you going to see the change going forward? Some of the emerging technologies like AI, IoT, material advancements, in some cases, in fact, I know one of the student who is working in one of the universities under the scholarship of a PhD after his bachelor's, working on photonics, which is essentially working on the areas where new type of materials that can be used for, of course, for military applications to begin with, but beyond that, for a consumer application also. Now, if an undergrad student can be looked into from that kind of perspective, definitely the same can be looked up in India also. That means age should not be a criteria to see who is innovative, who is smart, and how he or she can be held and guided. Then, of course, there are smart grids, AVs, drones, big data analytics. We all have been talking about it. Medicine and pharmaceuticals have been coming to picture post-COVID. So if you look into this, the what I call the canvas of innovation can be quite large. And the heartening part of this is, as engineers, we can look into any of these areas and then pick and choose the areas that we are passionate about. And incidentally, the 15% of the tech startups that I talked about, they are working in the emerging technology area. So I think all in all, the efforts are on and the work is going on. So it's only we need to sort of push a little bit more harder to get to a level where we all feel good and have a satisfaction that we have made an impact on the social innovation front as well as on the technology innovation front. Now, what drives or influences innovation? I mean, it's very easy to say be innovative, think different, do different. But if you look into it in a formal manner, if you look into more of a structured, order of how and what influences innovation, it is essentially, starts with the researchers and the number of researchers, and then the intensity with which they work on certain areas of their choice, right? Then also the patent activity starts, provided they come up with research which can be commercialized. or also for the sake of getting the patent or the IP registered. Then parallelly, depending upon what you do, it could be the trademarks also, copyrights also, depending upon what you come up with as the outcome of the research. And as many of you are researchers, the most important aspect of this is somebody needs to know that you have done a great job. So naturally, this is through the journals that we publish our papers, and the contents of the papers, and then the citations of those things, the index, Scopus index, and then how it's been referred to as, whether it's a successful presentation or not. These are some of the inbuilt measures to see whether the standard practice of innovation, like through research, is it really working or not? We will look into some numbers pertaining to India, but the recent trend has been, well, you are a researcher, you researched on something, you come up with a technology or some kind of outcome of your research, which is published in the paper, it's been patented, but what's so big about it, right? Can we actually build something around it? That means that research has been now translated into an innovative product or a service. Then that can be exported to realize some hard revenue to the country. But all these need some driver, and that is, of course, the research and development funding or the expenditure that comes along with it. So if you probably have heard that India started looking into PhD programs little differently in the recent decade, is because till then it was only the possibility of big and well-known, nationally important institutions, whereas everybody else, they just could manage, without a PhD. But policy changes, and then the global scenario changes, and the competitiveness actually had brought this down to any institution that you can now look into. That is one standard way to see the influences on innovation, which is the research-oriented, research-based. But I also would like to bring it to the right-hand side of my screen, or your screen rather, is that innovation starting from research is fabulous. I mean, this is by far the most sought after way to do innovation and develop innovation. But not all of the institutions or people have the luxury of doing some in-depth, deep tech related researches, and which in turn can be converted into something innovative. Now, we all have to agree to the fact that as this comparison we always do, right? In the US university or in the Western universities, most of the research happens in the university, which spills over as a startup, and then the products and services start coming out. Google as an example, and so many other things that you can see as an example. Now, why is it not happening in India? I mean, if you see the left-hand side, the standard innovation process that I just talked about through research, that is actually, sort of handed down to us, saying that this is how the research has to be done. But without proper, support system or funding requirements, and even the problem statements, and sort of connecting it to who is the user. Is there a business which is seeking this kind of research? Those were all the missing things, and naturally we were behind that. In fact, we are still behind that. So what I thought we should put into is, if you can look into defining a process of innovation where user-centric products and services are developed at the grassroots level, the schools, colleges level. Now, not all of these are going to be game changers. They are not going to be radically different, but it helps to develop the concept that, okay, there is a problem. Using the available resources, we can influence the outcome of our integration of solutions so that an innovative product can be made. It is more of a taking out off-the-shelf technologies and then plugging them together to develop new solution. Now, why am I putting this here? Is because more than anything else, even now, if we look into most of the research done at the academic level in India, hardly gets out of the researcher's hand and becomes a product or a service. I mean, there are exceptions always. But why is it? Because I always feel that we do research because we have to do research. PhD is a requirement. We'll have to abide by the policy, and nobody can help in this process. So we just have to do it. But at the end of getting the PhD degree, if you look back and then realize that, well, it's been sitting there for last 4 5 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. What is the use of it? I mean, where can I actually see solving somebody's problem, making an impact? So they're all, coming out and saying that what a research you made, it really helped us make our life a lot more better. I still do not see that kind of link up between academic research work and the real need of the society. Now you can always question, do we have to measure everything that we do as a part of the research as an impact on the society? But my answer would be that, hey, look, we all are social animals. We all live together. So any good that comes from as an outcome of the research, if the fair share of that can be realized by the society members, then naturally, that's a better way to sustain research, and people probably would be happy to support research going forward. But this again have to be taught at the schools. It has to be made as a part of the students' learning process, that not all the solutions will come from somebody else outside of India or somebody else other than me. I am also equally responsible for the problem. And can I actually start looking into the problems and then start building my solutions based on the open sourced technologies, so that I know how innovation can be practiced and innovative products and services can be developed. Later on, when he or she goes to higher education institutions, then this mentality or mindset or the learning can be translated into a formal research process wherein they are behind solving specific problems. And the numbers are a proof of what I'm trying to allude to. If you look into the developed and the developing countries, the number of researchers itself is staggeringly low for India. Now, we are, as I mentioned, the most populous country going to be by November of this year, with 147 crore people. I mean, that's not a small number, right? With that many number, look at the number of people who have opted for the research as their focus. So those numbers being low, naturally the outcome also being, is low. As you can see, the scientific journal articles are relatively low. It could be much better. Naturally, our R&D expenditure, as I mentioned earlier, is at 0.62%, which probably is minuscule. But this will also again become higher because there is a demand to get more resources, more facilities. But as of now, that is also abysmally small. Our high-tech exports in billions of US dollars, if you look into, we are mere $14 billion, whereas look into the other countries, the comparison is quite stark. And then patent filed, we are at a number which is substantially lower as compared to others. It's growing, but I guess it's not, we have not achieved a goal yet. Trademarks, we are at almost 1/10 or maybe 1/12 of what China does. And industrial designs are also, in all parameters that you look into, when we start with the limited number of people getting engaged in research, it is impacting all the outcomes in all the forms. Now, there has always been this discussion that, hey, look, is publication, the quality of the publication, and is publication itself in itself is enough? And honestly, I am not from the academic background. I started my career in industry. And ultimately in industry, what matters is, hey, look, I don't care what you do, how you do. The ends justify the means, right? So you show the result. And if it is through research, if it is through innovative process, if it is through something, we will make special attempt to make that as a standard process. But if the results are not seen, naturally the problem isn't really solved the way we want it to be solved, then it's a no-no. The industry has very little patience for that. So I guess this scenario, the fourth column for India, has to really change. And the first point to change is probably the number of people getting into the research. And also this brings in the question, can we handle more researchers, right? That's one other aspect that we need to look into. So we need to grow from all dimensions to see a dramatic change in the field of innovations, especially research-based, as compared to where others are in the global arena. So if you again draw from that inspiration and then come down to Indian research potential, over 900 universities, literally 40,000 colleges, over 10,000 academic institutions, Look at the number. After graduation, only 12% of the students go for post-graduation, and a mere 0.5% doctoral degrees. And the research intensity is only 216 per million, which we just saw there, whereas it is almost 5 times more in China and 4 times that in Japan. Sometimes I wonder, is it really the culture that drives these things? I'm not sure, but I think that is open for discussion. Because a country with largest number of people, why would we struggle to get researchers with that research bent, which can make a impact or a difference in somebody's life? So maybe this is something, if any social scientists are there, can look into how much of what we do contributes to this kind of performance. But again, that's what I said. With this as our given information, I see the only way to sort of look into unlocking innovation is to make changes at the school level, the grassroots level, where students start now asking the questions: why are we like this? What can be done to change this? And what does it take to change this? Maybe this questioning process will eventually make us make them look at research as a formal way to arrive at the solution. But by then they would be looking at bigger, broader, and more impactful problem statements. Now, there is one other concept, then the patents filed by residents and non-residents of the country. Non-residents especially are one who come to India to work, and they probably working at MNCs, or the MNCs have funded because they need a globally relevant solutions. Look at the percentage difference between that of China and that of India. The bulk of the patents filed are from residents in China, whereas quite opposite of that is in India. So it essentially says that we need to scale up to that level of performance, whether we work for an MNC or whether we work for an Indian company or we are in academics. Till that changes, this ratio will probably continue to stay. And the reason I thought this is important is because, let's say Hindustan Unilever brings in, scientists to develop India-specific, washing powder solutions. I mean, I'm sure a lot of research goes in there. And then it sort of helps them to get the research done, paper published. And then, of course, they use that research to drive India-specific product lines. But like India, there are almost 100 countries out there. So naturally for them, it helps to scale up research activities in a country like India, whereas the solutions or the outcomes of that can be applied to many, literally most of the countries across the globe. And this is why I always have been wondering, coming from mechanical engineering, look, our roads are not that good. We all know that, right? And we have Indian companies which make tires. I don't need to name them, but I'm just giving you an example. Whereas, the tires that we get from outside of India, who do you think will make better tires to suit the Indian roads? Because our roads to begin with are bad. So naturally, if my product that I make has to withstand those kind of roads, so naturally the product that I make to match my road condition has to be much better performing tire. But why is it other way around? Now, this really tells me that there is something called an absolute quality requirement as a part of our research, which drives the product, whether it is used in India or in Kenya or in US. And I think that, what I call the broad-sided approach has to be there for the researcher. At the same time, if there is an absolute quality through the research is good, it applies to anywhere across the globe. And that is why it's always a stark difference to me as to why, and what we can do to change this state of affairs with, our innovation, especially for the India-specific products and services where we use these things. And who are the players in the research area? And if you look into India, majority of the research comes from, or research output comes from the government, like DRDO, CSIR, whereas businesses have now slowly increasing their grip on that. But look at the higher education. I mean, again, you're all, I'm not saying this because I know any better than you, but I'm asking all of us as to why, when we do so much of a research focus, especially in the last 5, 7, 10 years, why the numbers still so abysmally low? I mean, where are we need to change these things, and then what drives the change? And one thing is for sure, at this 5% higher education research players being a part of research as a process or as a career or as a performance measurement, definitely is not going to work much good for India. So something has to be done. And again, I don't know, but I said, if we can have the, at the young age, if the children can be sort of have develop a bent towards solving a problem and then trying to research through their way to solve a problem, probably they will continue to enjoy that, and then this number might go up. Now, if you will, so with all these oddities, right? I mean, we have a lot more to look at these numbers. Definitely some course correction has to be done. But look at what we have achieved. I mean, if you look at this, it gives a sense of hope that we can do it. And I think that's a great starting point to me. We are at the third spot in terms of volumes of exports, and 14th in terms of values as far as the pharmaceutical market is concerned. And you know what? A pandemic was really terrible. No doubt about it. The loss is immeasurable. However, there were bright sparks in this dark cloud of pandemic, wherein India actually had to look into its pharmaceutical potential. And today we all know it's already making a history in terms of saying that we could send our vaccines to close to 100 plus countries. And India in itself, we all got 3 shots of COVID, a vaccine, and that too free of charge. So the numbers are staggering. So we did really make some dent somewhere, which other developed countries couldn't even fathom. But India did that. So there is some other, strength that we have, which we need to realize and then take it from there. And also on the startup unicorns are companies with over $1 billion in valuation. Whether it's a good way to measure a startup or not, but let's go with the standard nomenclature. But so we are now quickly, in about 4 years, moved up to the third spot and then putting UK behind us. So somewhere something is, like sort of kicking and then trying to make its presence feel, especially the youngsters. And I think that I see that there's a reflection of that. And also in the educational area, in the edtech area, we are really doing some good work. Of course, there are some lot of ripples that are happening through what Baiju is going through currently, but I hope and wish that it's only a temporary phenomenon. But we would see a lot of education technology related startups, which can be a game changer for us. In fact, I have been already talking to a few of the startups who are doing tremendous amount of work in the educational area. So good things are going to come. But again, we saw the one side, where we stand on a global platform. At the same time, some of these numbers that we just see in the screen probably never thought we could achieve. So somewhere, if you see between these two, can India still be the innovation hub of the world? Or we just have to go quite a distance before we could look back and say, wow, we did that. So that is something, it's open for all of us. So we all have to agree, which I've been coming to more and more sort of vociferously, sort of voicing it, that without innovation, we are doomed. I mean, business as usual is not going to be a norm today, and it will not sustain us for tomorrow. Now, again, why am I saying this? India has, as I said, close to 140 crore hungry mouths every day. Now, our land isn't increasing, right? In fact, it's probably diminishing because of so many other things, cities development and all. So imagine if our business is to feed our own people, let alone the world, unless we do some agri-technology innovations through agri-technology, we probably will be like some of the African countries who, unfortunately, with the poor leadership, are staring at malnutrition, weakness, and death. So innovation has to be the critical driver for growth and sustenance also, and of course eventually the success. And that is how we need to look at innovation as we go along. And of course, the research and development is a standard term coined to drive innovation, but I would like to sort of highlight on the fact that it can go beyond standard research process and rooted into the grassroots, so that we can start looking at what can we do locally, what can we do regionally, what can we do nationally, and beyond that. Of course, in the process, patents are a vital players. And one thing that I see is incentivizing innovation is being very poorly done in India. What is the motivation for any researcher to take on passionately one problem statement and come to a solution? Uh, Things have to be remarkably different in the area of incentivizing people who are involved in either research or through offline process of innovation, without which the results can be as poor as we are seeing right now. And we must agree that it's a research, innovation, and patents. Patents is an outcome of research, but essentially all three actually are the I call it the three key system to unlock innovation as we go on. Now, we know that we humans are always innovative. I mean, creative, innovative. I use these words interchangeably at this point of time, but we know there is a subtle difference between the two. But we never have been quiet in terms of accepting things as it is. We're always curious, right? So what started with the various challenges that we had, including the defense related challenges, even if I look at India as a country, and as far as the green revolutions, the white revolution, as far as the dairy is concerned, we have seen that we have stood up to the challenge, and then we have pushed those things very clearly to achieve something which we thought was never achievable. And variety of scientific and technological performances by certain individuals, certain institutions, or a group of people have helped us to achieve these things. But the question is, can we make it a mainstream? I mean, that is where I think this FDP should need to focus on. As I said, humans are innovators, starting from the days of understanding how to make a fire, all the way up to how to douse a fire in Canada. If you see, the wildfires are raging from last almost a month. And, between these two extremes, we have been definitely innovative in record times, in many of the times. But it isn't enough, because what we were 100 years ago, 4 billion population, today I think we are inching to 7.5 billion. So naturally, our challenges are also going to be multifold. But good news is that when push comes to shove, we just have proved that we can do, and we can do better. So is it really the pressure tactic always works for Indian researchers? I don't know. But looks like, starting from, as I said, COVID, and then starting from developing masks, and then the kits, the protective gear kits, to the grocery delivery, education which is online, and of course other part of the human life, we all have seen some substantial change happening. But this is, to me, this is just like what is coming. I want it to be more like the sample of what we are going to do. So we need to do a whole lot more to fix these things, or things like this. Now, coming to proper innovation. Now, we looked into so far, why is it important? What are some of the factors as of today? But let's talk into the innovation in itself. It can be variety of types of innovation. It could be product innovation, something that was not there yesterday, it is here today. Or the process innovation. This is how we used to do then, but this is how we are doing now. Right? Service innovation. For some reason, I feel that the way I experience the consumer transaction process is a whole lot more innovative. I will come up with many examples as we go along. And finally, for a business, can the business model itself be innovative one? And it's the good thing about innovation is it can happen in every spectrum of human life. It can happen on a smaller scale. It can happen on a radically larger scale. And some of them could be too early in innovation. People are not even used to that kind of innovation. So those are also the challenges of overzealous approach towards innovation. But if you come back to product innovation, essentially it involves something new or improved as a product, as I mentioned. And of course, process focuses more on operational efficiency and effectiveness of it. Service talks about, as I said, delivery and quality of services, and businesses are as to how they run their business and become or optimize themselves. So I just thought I should put this as a part of my presentation as to from where we started all this, right? I mean, fire invented, or was it there? I don't know, but 1.5 million years ago. So that's a long time that we either accidentally or designed by as design, we found fire. Wheel was about 4000 BCE, but interestingly enough, it always amuses me that wheel still remains wheel even after so many years. So that shows certain things don't change, but they still can be quite innovative in their approach towards their usability aspects. Money was invented over 600 BC, that's about 2500 years ago. And coming to product, I thought of just putting those things because it always grounds us that we are not the first one to think of innovation. We probably won't be the last one to think of innovation. That's why I put that slide in there. As far as the product innovation is concerned in India, look at this. There's in 1980s, the light commercial vehicles, the cars and the sedans and those things and the goods carriers was the first one to get deregulated. And suddenly, we saw, Suzuki coming into India. So many other joint ventures started happening in India. And Tata's were the homegrown company then, called Telco, and everybody thought that, well, it is the end of Tata Motors because of Telco, because now they are globally sought after models are here. But surprisingly, this Tata 407, which is a light commercial vehicle, dominated the road, and even today it is considered as one of the workhorse for simple reason that it's rugged. As I said, it can get used to the Indian roads much better probably than the imported ones. And easy to repair. You can see people who can get into the last nut and bolts, even on the roadside repair shops. It's a great value for money. It keeps going and going and going. And now this differentiates us from some of the Western models of product innovation. And I don't know how many of you, but personally, if I buy a product, I would rather use it till it goes bad. Okay, and the only reason I had to sell my car, which was 11 years old, 4 months ago, is because I know in 15 years it will become like a junk. I think the newest policy says that you cannot take 15-year-old vehicles on the road. Then I said, and it was perfectly okay. There is nothing wrong with that car. I could have probably driven for next 10 years. But that policy made me to sort of trade in to a newer car. But if you go to some of the Western, and I'm sure that probably mindset, I can extend it to be the mindset of, most of us. I don't want to say that everybody, but if you look into the Western world, I've seen people just go by. None of these are. They are mad. They care about this, like ruggedness, ease of repair, good value for the money, and all. But it's the aesthetics and the what you call the novelty of the product drives them. So it could be 2-year-old car, but it doesn't matter. There is a brand new, GM Ford F-150 has come. I've seen many of my colleagues in US, sort of give away their old ones and buy new. So I think it's some of it probably got to do with the culture also. But this culture is fast changing in India. I think if you look at the latest generation, probably the cell phone that they use for 2 years, though it is working good, they might not want to stick to it because there is something best, better, and beastly in the market. So, these are some of the things that we had to look into. What happened? Okay. Hang on for a second. Okay. All right. So now if you look into other innovations, I just have put in technology because at that point of time, they did use technology that was relevant to them, right? Gunpowder, compass, printing press, microscope, all the way up till computer, which changed the way human life runs. And now to airplanes, and the list goes on and on and on. But look at this. The reason I'm putting this is because somebody thought, why do the business the same way? Why do the business the hard way? Why don't we bring in efficiency, something novelty, something new in the way we do business, something faster, something better? And all of these innovations have some drive underneath, which somebody thought it's important, and then they made it as a part of their research, and eventually they sort of brought it out as a product. So now, I don't think there is anything different in looking, if you look into the future also. What we are happy with today, the future generation probably might not be happy with. So they are going to drive the current innovations to a level that we thought never possible. And this example I always give in the classroom. 150 years ago, if somebody says, look, I'm going to hold this small black piece with a glass in front of it called camera, which can actually send your pictures to somebody who is like 12,000 kilometers away instantaneously. I'm sure 100, 150 years ago, people would have laughed, that's not going to happen. But today, in the cell phone and then the phone calls that we do on WhatsApp can actually deliver exactly the same thing. So what was not seemingly possible then, it's possible today. All we need to do is agree that there could be a solution. It might not be happening tomorrow, but it would happen eventually. So this disruptive technology mindset is probably the real need for India. I mean, I'm just generalizing this because we are happy, incremental innovations, we're all great, we're all happy. But somewhere we need to actually change the gears in a manner that we zoom and the old ways remain the old ways, and we have something which we never thought possible from our side is being realized. And that is what technology can actually do. On the process side, I have two great examples. We know process innovation is essentially which drives the way we get things accomplished. It will operational excellence and performance excellence is what the reason behind process innovation. I'm sure you have all heard Arvind Eye Care. The purpose behind this ophthalmologist starting this is because he couldn't see people who needed eye care running from pillar to post. And what he started single-handedly is what we call today as Arvind Eye Care, where they do literally millions of eye operations on a scale that probably has never comprehended before, and at the price point that probably appears to be too good to be true. And that is still the reality. And you can see the similar thing is being done by Narayan Healthcare, also started as Narayan Hridayalaya. Look at the price difference. Their earlier goal was to make the bypass surgery at around $2,000. Today they are making it, try to make it below 1,000. But look at the cost at US. I mean, in the US, it's almost like unthinkable, 70,000 times higher than what they can do it in India, more than 70,000 times higher. So what drives the same heart, similar kind of patient, but get done in some geography where it get done in India as a geography, and similarly capable doctors or the physicians and doctors around. Why is the cost so high and what drives it low in India? That is precisely what the process innovation has done. And one other part that I always have been questioning, which is the third side of process innovation, is look, in India, I did some research in the last 2 days. There are about 30 to 32 lakhs people die every year from various reasons. And imagine 30 lakhs of people are dying every year. All of them average have two eyes. Let's take it to be the number, about 60 lakh eyes. Look at the number of blinds in India, total number of blinds in India, 18 lakhs. What's the rate of return if I look like a business person to look into? Now, why is this not happening? I mean, let's take 50% of the eyes cannot be used because of old age, some disease, something. But we still are left with 30 lakh eyes, which would be more than enough to clear the 18 lakh blinds in India. Now, the reason, according to my internal study, which is very close to my heart, is the organ donation is not, mainstream in India, number one. Even if it is, if people register to the nearby hospital and then say that we would like to donate our organ after death, the problem is if they die in the home, the people at home must know that this guy has registered there. That's the first hindrance. Second thing, if the person doesn't die in his hometown or in his home, if he dies somewhere in an accident, forget it, because these have to be harvested within 3 to 4 hours. Nobody knows, and they either are buried or burned. So is there a better innovative process where in India, people who are dying, who have registered for organ donation, can be met to fulfill, where people are literally hopeless and waiting for somebody to come and then donate it? It can actually make somebody's life. So it is a simple off-the-shelf technology or mechanisms that we need to put together to make it happen. And where else can it happen other than India? Because we have more number of people here. So process innovation is also a substantial contributor to unlocking the innovation as we talk, because it's all about people and their quality of life. Some other process innovations I have put in across the globe. McDonald's, because the way they started making burgers, but today their burgers is like assembly line. Within 30 seconds they can make a burger. That is how they have processed their entire approach towards putting the burger together. One of my favorite is the Airbnb. I mean, when we had the student exchange program, which we ran for about 6 years between Hubli and US, what I saw was the students, in every July we used to take them to Boston, and every November, December, January, those students and then China students used to come to India. Now, when our students went there, first year when we went in 2014, I saw students really were struggling because they wanted to stay a couple of weeks extra. It was a vacation time after the program they wanted to see. They had a tough time. They had to reach out to their relatives to see whether they can book a hotel and then see which place they need to visit, what is the must-see things, and all those things were done through human interaction. But 2018, fast forward 4 years, I saw all of them, literally all of them, had booked their tickets to US online, had booked their hotels from here online, had booked their travels for a 3-day bus trip to various attraction in and around New York and Boston. Absolutely everything sitting in India online. And the best part of that was their stay was also booked through Airbnb, and at a price which I thought never possible in US. So what changed is somebody thought it's okay to go and stay in holiday. But what if I don't want to pay like a holiday in price, but want to have a holiday in kind of facility? What can I do? That is exactly how these platforms came up. And other examples have their own story, as you could see there. Starbucks has its own story. Netflix is a great, phenomenon that is changing the way entertainment is delivered to your living room on the flick of a button. So it is possible. The ground reality or understanding is we can do it. Now, where do we start, right? That is the change. And as far as the third side of the innovation, which is social innovation, again, India, I think, according to me, is in a leading position, because, as I said, it all impacts the society and the people around it. So social innovation in various forms and shapes, like through non-governmental organization, NGOs working into this, or individuals standing up and then taking care of it. Somebody coming with a technology background and then trying to do it. It's all about networking and connecting with it, like the self-help group that we met and saw in Pandharpur area. And then, the green power supply through solar paneling for the houses that are being built, so that, we become a zero carbon as early as we can. Akshay Patra, feeding literally lakhs of young kids every day. I mean, we probably have done this extremely well in social innovation side, which definitely needs to be looked into as to how we can replicate that in the other of it. Some examples of social innovation where you can see this device, which actually is used on the infants to see whether they are, how good is their hearing. So it measures without even doing anything beyond just putting it on the head of the baby on a device which is almost like your cell phone. It can tell whether the hearing is normal or something needs to be done before. Nothing invasive on this one. And it's an award-winning design, purely thought through because of the Indian requirement. And it's being done by young kids who thought that they can make a difference. I'm sure all of you might have heard it, Aditya, which is actually a ferry runs on a solar power. And this flagship solar electrical ferry also won the world's best award for its design, for its operational excellence, and ultimate part of that was not even a single what you call gram or kilogram of carbon coming out of this. An amazing thing, and now it is sort of being looked into replicating across the globe. Akshay Patra I spoke about, and in fact, what is heartening to know is daily, every single day, 18 lakh students plus get their lunch thanks to Akshay Patra. I mean, it's not a small number, right? I mean, just imagine feeding 10 people when they come home. And these people are talking about 18 lakh meals every day across 12 states in India. And I am very close to one of that in Hubli, where they make about 1.8 lakh meals every day. And the last truck leaves at 8:30. In fact, they have a very good visit that the visitors can take starting at around 6 o'clock in the morning. It's absolutely worth seeing how that process is. And during summer vacations also they provide, because they know if this food truck does not come, kids have nothing to eat in some places. So now imagine if you are talking about making a social impact, what else is better impact than putting a mechanism with which we all come together, share our part and do something so that nobody goes hungry and they can focus on their education. I think that is substantially notable, what I call social innovation. This is one other example. We all know the chulas are where we cook are the culprit of women of the older generations through smoke and then the heat and excess exposure to smoke and heat. So these guys, Agni Sumok, have come up with an award-winning concept of kitchen stove, which now is being acclaimed as the most efficient way of burning fuel and to get the most out of what burns. So I think this energy efficient fuel platform is something which we probably all were looking for solutions, and the breakthrough came in 2015. And I'm sure this is one of the, according to me, probably many women out there might be thanking these guys for the better experience, cooking experience. And this is one other example. We are, as I said, 1.4 billion, about 6% only have access to safe waters. The remaining 54%, lack access to safely managed sanitation. Somebody thought at water.org that they can play a significant role through an innovative process called water credit solution. And it was originally thought of, designed and piloted in India. So people now can actually get access to water, whether they are otherwise deprived of it. Now, through somebody thinking differently, acting differently, they have received this solution. And again, what a social innovation in terms of bringing the technology together. A couple of others, and then I will move on. Under the mango tree is a hybrid solution. In fact, this is a very popular theme when we do innovation workshops. How do you enhance the agricultural income for a small farmer? I mean, this is the most common problem that students love to take. But what these guys have done is they have actually mixed a couple of processes to enhance the income. Also, access to some livelihood products through what we call as a brand called Under the Mango Tree. Can be replicated anywhere. The simplicity and the applicability of these are, whether it's a farmer in India or farmer in Africa, I'm sure they all will appreciate the fact that if this kind of innovation can be shared, everybody would be happy. I think Janma is a product, this lady who couldn't see young kids dying and mothers' health being compromised during pregnancy. Just $100 for this has a basic minimum in this kit that is required as per the WHO to avoid dying and unsanitary childbirth conditions. Again, this reaffirms my notion, which I have come to believe, that innovation is nobody's endowment. It's not educated people only can be innovative. It's not only people highly qualified and innovative. All it is required is connection to the problem and feeling the pain. And day and night you think, how can I help people with this pain? And whether it is requiring research, you do research. Whether requiring assimilation of technologies available there, you do that. Or talk it out and then come up with your own methodology to solve it through the process. It could be anything, but it's just a connection to the problem statement. I think that makes a whole lot of a difference for people. I think lastly, Sakha is a social enterprise providing a safe transportation solution for women, by women. I think we have seen many of these, like a pink taxi, pink rickshaws or something like that. But one success story that I thought I should share here. So what drives innovation in India? Again, we did speak about some of the patents being filed where the research happens. But as I said earlier also, the majority of the innovation source in India is by government agencies. Possibly the reason is funding is relatively much higher there, and then access to latest technological products and then gadgets are higher. So that could be one reason. It's an oversimplified statement from my side, but the reality is true that DRDOs, CSIRs, and then R&D centers at multinationals also, they contribute substantially. In fact, that's about 92% of the overall innovation done in India. And of course, the Indian companies also do. Recently, quite a bit of them, like Jindals and then Kalyani Steels, they're all getting into doing some innovation, and that is also coming to the foray as we speak. Then the last stream is, like a software and pharmaceuticals. And the proof of that it's working really well there is, of course, the quantum of the export that we have been doing in these two. The software services, I think we did highest last year with the $400 billion, and the pharmaceuticals close to about $42 to $46 billion, which was unthinkable, probably a decade ago. So somewhere I think we are driving. So my take is this. Where core research is required to develop an innovation, I think we are going a little slow because of our access to the facilities, as I mentioned earlier, the drivers of it, and for our the process in which that needs to be done. But whereas collectively, with we bringing in like a potluck, whatever that we have with us, and then coming together and then thinking differently to come up with a solution, I think we are doing relatively good. So I think we need to hit the balance so that we achieve excellence in all the streams of innovation. Now I'm coming to the connection of research and innovation. Of course, research is the foundation for innovation. Absolutely no doubt about it. But who does it? That's a different story. But the research essentially is the driving factor or a force to develop new ideas, products or service, process, anything. And I don't need to define what research is, because I think that's been done already, and you probably are knowledgeable enough to figure that out. But we know, in simply put terms, it involves systematic investigation, experimentation, analysis. To what? To expand the knowledge if it is in a basic science. And our second part is to address existing challenges or problems. That is applied research, right? So do you agree, all of you? I think you do, because I faced this problem when I was doing my PhD. If we start out with the wrong problem statement or a wrong focus, then we've struggled really hard to align our research passion and efforts to deliver the result. However, if we had spent enough time to, as I said, fall in love with the problem, because of which I choose my research process or a journey in a certain manner, probably I see a lot more better results. Why am I saying that? Is because I actually experienced that problem during my research. It was absolutely in a compact 3-month time. We were supposed to come up with something. And I really regretted, had I got at least a couple of more months, I would have done a better job. But that's my personal experience. I don't know about you guys. But one thing is for sure, it is a systematic investigation and trying out something as an experiment, and eventually consists of some analysis helping to enhance what we know in terms of the basics, what you call as a science focused research or basic research. And applied research is somewhere where, we use whatever our learnings to solve a problem, right? So that is, nobody can deny that. That's exactly how it is. And it can be, some of them, it can be a groundbreaking innovation, can lead to brand new products and services. And what impresses me is the product which through research developed, which is zero light goggles, or what you call as the night vision goggles. I mean, it's just amazing to see when the bare eye, which for us gives the impression of what is happening out there, cannot see anything. It's pitch black. Whereas just putting a few lenses or a contraption of few lenses in front of you can actually deliver what is happening. That I thought was really, impressive, and hats off to the human ingenuity. And lastly, innovation actually refers to practical application of new and improved ideas, resulting in the creation or value of organization for society. This is, I just put this as a definition as to what is innovation. Through, we know now what is research, what is the research outcome supposed to be doing, and if this outcome actually can lead to something that can help as a value to the organizations like businesses and for our society, I think the research and innovation have been complementing each other. That's how I see it. I have actually a very interesting example. I'm sure some of you might know this, but please bear with me for 3 minutes. 3M is a company which officially boasts that 20% of their annual revenue must come from a new products. I have not seen this kind of vision in any of the other companies. What that essentially says is 20% of the money that we make year on year has to come from new products that we develop. So the impetus is given to developing new products, and to develop new products, what we need to do substantial research, because that is the major focus or a pipeline for developing something new. So Nitin, can you just play that first video, please?
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure.
I'll just stop sharing now.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Is it visible, sir?
Yeah, it is.
Visible?
Yeah, it is. Please play.
Yeah, this TED Talk, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not this one. The other one.
Yeah, this one?
Yeah, this is the one. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Can I play, sir?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Voice is coming, sir?
No, voice is not coming.
Okay. Once again, I will try.
That allows it to be temporarily attached.
Yeah, it is.
Walls, computer monitors, and just about everything else. For years, Post-it notes helped people to be more productive and communicate better. But little did we know that this small piece of paper had its own struggles before making its way as we know it today. Here's how it all began. In 1968, a Korean scientist named Spencer Silver discovered something unique while busily researching for a piece. He developed an unusual kind of glue known as a repositionable adhesive. This means that the glue was able to cling easily to a surface, but it could also be easily removed. But what is the problem? Silver's team was trying to achieve an exceptionally stronger and tougher adhesive for aircraft construction. Apparently, this adhesive is opposite of that, and for years, Silver struggled to find a use for its invention. Meanwhile, Arthur Fry, another 3M employee, was frustrated. Every Wednesday night, while practicing with his church choir, he would use little scraps of paper to mark his notes. But by Sunday, he'd find that they'd all fallen out of the hymnal notes. So he needed a bookmark that would stick to the paper without damaging the pages. It was in 1973 when Arthur Fry attended a seminar and heard Silver talk about an adhesive which he created but disappointingly lacks practical application. Thinking about his problem with his hymnal notes, it was eureka for Arthur Fry. Partnering with Spencer Silver, they began developing a product. A strip of silver adhesive at the top of a piece of paper which could create a note that could be left anywhere. Hence, the birth of a 3-inch small square canary yellow paper. They thought that what they had is not just a bookmark for Fry's simple notes, but a whole new way to communicate. The notes became an overnight set. Person by person, sticky notes slowly took over with real office. People in the office would leave messages for their colleagues in the silent demonstration of the sticky notes usefulness. Post-it note is a product nobody thought they needed. Until they did. Enjoy this video.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. You can
Go
close
ahead.
it now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was a
Okay.
nice video, sir.
Thank you. I'll just move back to my presentation.
Yeah, sure, sure. I will stop, sir, here for sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hang on, I think I have to go back to. Okay, there it is. Can you guys see it? Okay, hang on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think it started from the beginning, so let me just go back. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Okay, there it was. Okay, so the interesting part, why am I talking about this example is because in any other company, that guy would have been fired because he did exactly opposite to what he was assigned to do to come up with the most strongest glue. Instead, he actually ended up having the weakest glue. But look at the research eventually become a global phenomenon in the form of post-it notes, and today we are all using it in one form or the other. So the thing is, research happens, but the researcher, according to me, also should have some idea as to when the research gets completed and something tangible comes out of it, where would it fit? What would it do? How can it sort of help somebody and then solve somebody's problem? That's exactly what the mindset that I want researchers to take into account. This also a really interesting thing, what research can do as far as innovation is concerned. This is a 1991 Radio Shack, which is a store in US. And look at the total, the poster for that weekly news appeared in the weekly newspaper. All products are shown as far as their sale prices are concerned. They were under some sort of sale, adding up to close to about $5,225 US. And there were about 13 items. But fast forward, this cell phone from Apple actually has all 13 products in it and costs about $200. Now see the difference here. We could have the point. The only time I'm trying to sort of highlight is we could do business as usual without thinking, why do I need to change anything if they're all working good? But if we don't do it, somebody behind us is working on that and trying to put those 13 products into one product and then hand it off to us, saying that, okay, well, buy this. This has computer in it, phone in it, music player in it, camera in it, just transistor radio in it, everything is in it here. So that is exactly what research-driven innovation can do. I mean, look at this, is literally a radical game-changing innovation, which now today we all enjoy holding this in our pocket. And I'm sure you all agree, this computer called cell phone that we have in our pocket is much, much more powerful than the early computers that arrived into the market. So something has changed because somebody thought this is not acceptable. And I'm sure they were researchers. Now I will come to this story later, but look at this. It's a MRI. And now I have the technology-driven cases. This is a CT scan, the MRI scan, and there is actually very humane story behind this as to why the MRI scan, which looks in a standard presentation like this, vanilla color, whereas the other side it looks a lot more colorful. I have a video which I will play at the end of my presentation to push one more point from my side. But General Electric, which developed this, found that children were really afraid to go in there to get scanned. And most of these were like cancer patients and kids who have hurt their head and the most important organs of the body. And many times they were to be sedated to make them go through this MRI scan. And the guy who actually was the main researcher to come up with the CT scan, Doug Deeds, he was shocked to see the reaction of the kids when they were made to go through CT scan. They were terrified, they were crying, and that actually melted his heart. Now, being an engineer and a technologist and a researcher, he decided to. Hello, am I audible, Nitin?
Yeah, sorry, sir, that someone's mic was on.
Okay.
Yes.
No problem. So now what did he do? He is a researcher, designer, and an engineer, but he put on the hat of a humane person and next, transformed his machine, CT scan, into something which kids found extremely interesting. I will have that story coming next. Because the purpose of showing this is because the researcher not only has to have the tangible outcomes focus, productization focus, and also humanity in general in his or her perception. How research can also help. The carousels that you see at the airports, which will bring your bags outside, the similar principle is used in a sushi bar in some restaurant where most of these travel along a rubber belt and customer can pick and choose. And every time he or she picks something, the scanner will scan it and then it will be added to his bill. So cross-learning can happen because of what we call as the culture of research. And this is how the world is changing and has changed in the past. Look at the landing gear design, which involves substantial, complex hydraulic, electrical, and mechanical system coming into picture. Very easily translated into the stroller that mothers used to carry their baby away. Especially the part which is collapsible to make it handy like a walking stick. Is something which really was a game changer for the baby strollers then. And the inspiration was taken by the research done in designing the landing gear of the airplanes. We are going to have this pretty soon, hopefully in India, the Shinkansen bullet trains between Surat and Mumbai. And I'm very curious and can't wait to see, boarding on one of them. But look at this. I mean, the inspiration for this is from the bird, kingfisher bird, I think, which has or provides the more aerodynamic and less noise kind of situation, especially when they travel at 300 to 350 miles an hour. That's about 400 to 450 kilometers per hour. So now, what the point that I'm trying to hit is the researcher must also be looking all around to see what else that he or she can learn to make his outcome of the research whole lot more, connected, grounded, right, in reality, especially in nature. So now I'm going to quickly talk about what are some of the upcoming research areas, which I'm sure most of you know. But this is, again, not put in by me. This is what the industry body and some of the institutions talk about. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, of course, that's exactly what I said. We missed the the hardware wave or the semiconductor wave. But the latest waves, technology waves, India is not sitting back. The proof of that is, college like Sweri already has a program in AI and ML. I'm sure teachers, wherever they have come from, they realize that there is either an undergraduate program or some sort of specialized, electives that will train students in AI and ML. This is precisely how the current generation is, which is eager to latch on to something and take 100% advantage of the new dimensions of changes and benefit from it. And of course, blockchains fall exactly along the similar lines. In fact, one of the startup pitched to us last week, I think it came from Sangli, if I recall right. They were talking about using blockchain technology to develop a solution for the rural India. I mean, that was really mind-boggling, because till then we had heard only supply chain, so in the banking and then in the bitcoins and all the blockchains were predominantly used. But now the same technology has been brought down to the level of helping somebody at the rural level. And of course, other than that, the standard applications in India are now in supply chain management, finance, and healthcare as well. So researcher I see has the biggest canvas today. The choice for him or her to make is which way he or what he would like to or she would like to paint on that big canvas, depending on the area of their interest. Cybersecurity is a big deal now. Interestingly enough, in one of the Shirpur, I think, I don't know how many of you know, in the northern Maharashtra, which is agri belt and also tribal belt associated with that. It's fairly close to Indore and about 45 minutes from Dhule. This 12th standard kid, when he was in 11th standard, he decided to work on cybersecurity. Today, I think in probably next couple of months, he's going to roll out his first startup where he's going to train rural youth in cybersecurity aspects and then make them work for larger companies, either as a gig employee or as an employee. Now, how did this guy came into being a cybersecurity expert? He has written a book, by the way. He is now, I think, passing 12th grade and getting into possibly engineering. When he was the school that he was studying, they had what we call as the adult tinkering lab. I think ATLs, you probably are aware of it. What ATLs essentially do is they will engage students focusing on the problem area and then giving possible support mechanism in terms of access to hardware, software, coaching, mentoring, assembly, testing facilities at a level that they can afford, and have them come up with a solution. This school where this guy went, he and his buddies, both of them, they came out to be national champions. And this kid, when he was in 10th standard, the 10th standard results from the Maharashtra board were to be released. But the faculty were finding very difficult because you had to enter one roll number at a time to get the result out online. So he asked his teacher, is that okay if I can get you the entire list of the school students' performance through the CBSE central server? The teacher said yes, because he didn't know what this guy is going to do. This guy went online, used his hacking mechanisms. He hacked into the central computer of the Central Board of Education office in Mumbai, got the entire database of all 6 lakh, 7 lakh students. And he said, I will now only extract that matters to our school. And then he gave it to the teacher. The teacher was flabbergasted naturally. And he was worried too. I mean, is this legal, ethical? Could be a problem, right? So he called up the officials and then said that this has happened. So those guys were extremely curious to understand this, the whereabouts of these kids and then his background. They were very impressed by his approach and his capabilities and skills. And today he's planning his engineering education. At the same time, he's starting his company, written a book, training students. You know what he credits his journey to? He said that the bent on research when the problem statement was given came from an environment like ATL, where there was a mentor who is his teacher, who is in fact a great teacher that I have met. He is fabulous. No wonder the students did that. And the facilities that are available, and an open-ended encouragement saying that, yes, go ahead, you can do it. In fact, when he was called into the local engineering college where I go in and do some work, the engineering students were referring to him during the QA session as sir. And he later confessed that it was a little embarrassing for him to be called as a sir because he was in 11th grade and where these are guys studying in engineering. So what am I trying to allude to here is cybersecurity is one area, but as a service and as a productization of innovative ideas, we don't sit behind. We just only need to realize our strength and then move. And this kid gives me he gives me some sort of aspiration, or some sort of higher level of performance setting for me, saying that, look, I can do it, what's your problem, kind of message he sends out. So that's what I thought I should mention that. And along with these upcoming research areas, the biggest challenge is going to be coming up with the talent, right kind of talent, especially in the areas that we are looking at. And I think during this workshop, I'm sure most of you faculty members are all here. You probably will realize that I am including me with you guys, we have a great challenge on our hand as to how do we provide competitive and what you call as result-driven manpower to the humanity, which works on latest technologies for the betterment. Right. And the last one, of course, is cloud computing. I'm not going to talk about this. As I said, I'm a mechanical engineer. I don't know too much about it, but I do use clouds for various applications of mine, and tremendous opportunities, big deals. And naturally, it helps students to understand which way they need to go. So these are all the upcoming research areas. Again, one other reason I thought I should put it in here, because maybe some young researchers looking into figuring it out which way area they would like to go. Maybe some of these areas they can consider. Of course, a lot more due diligence has to be done. So now, as I said, researchers and the research is the rock bed of any innovation. But it is important because the world isn't really nice and sane all the time. So we need to protect what we find out. So patents are giving that kind of legal protection for inventors or the researchers once their outcome comes through. And again, patents, I'm sure all of you know, it gives the right to a period of about 20 years. During those 20 years, you can actually get behind people who try to copy it or copy it, and then get compensated for the loss of revenue. So after 20 years, of course, the other guys are free to do whatever they can. And it is actually a powerful tool in sort of incentivizing innovation, because it can be licensed and it can actually be seen doing something good for the humanity also. It's like a social, what do you call, a connect, which makes one feel really good. Of course, more patents, then more R&D investment can be brought in, because it's like a cause and effect thing. Put in more money, we see more potential of patenting. So it's just a clear measure of the tangible outcome. And of course, it will help companies to safeguard their secrets as well during a period of 20 years. By protecting intellectual property, it gives some sort of a competitive environment that I can excel, and I can be a model for others, so that they too can follow this methodology of putting some ground research into it. So absolutely, patents have a place in the life cycle of an innovation. But look at where we stand again. I mean, in year-wise, right? I'm using this data was available as a number of US patents awarded by Indian investors. Okay, why US patents? There is a reason, because you can patent pretty much in India with a lot of ease these days because of government support and help. But you do patent in US only when you think the big wigs and the big industries, or the real forward-thinking industries or businesses, find your research a whole lot more attractive, and they might copy. That's the only time you think of protecting that in US also. So it's a good measure of the quality of the research. That's how I am seeing it. So if you see the numbers, you can see the numbers are on the rise, which is a good sign. And I have data only till 2000, and I'm sure by 2023, the numbers will be substantially higher. Well, what this gives me is some sort of comfort that the multifold increase in the number of Indian-based investors or inventors or researchers filing for US patent is going up substantially. And that is a good reason, because they find their research, or at least they think that their research would be relevant in US, so they don't need to be copied over there unless they are willing to pay the royalty. So which shows the maturity of the research that is going up in India. But can this number be any better, more than this? Of course, it can be better. So, but we have made the start. We have the journey has begun. So we need to take some baby steps and start running pretty soon. there is naturally some benefits of patents. It's like it gives a great image, right? And again, I give this example all the time wherever I go and then see and talk to campus, management and faculty. Why would anybody choose a given campus, right? I mean, if I need to do my undergraduate study, how do I choose my college? In India, it depends on your performance. Of course, everywhere, your performance in the previous examination, and then eventually your entrance test results and blah, 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 right? But once if you walk into that institution, what do you see? Does it excite you? The reason I'm bringing this up is because, my nephew in US, of course, he did very well in GRE. He, I think, scored about 332 out of 340. And he had an opportunity to do material science because he was interested in it, undergrad in UCLA. When he took me over there to show his University of California, Los Angeles, the moment you enter the main gate, there's a big board etched in stone, welcome to the campus of over 330 Nobel laureates. Welcome to the campus of over 330 Nobel laureates. I mean, that was like a lightning bolt. I mean, what could get you goosebumps? Imagine if this kid now getting there inside and then, planning to get the admission, enroll himself for next 4 years. I'm sure this is like a shot in the arm. It sets the bar so high already. So the patents can do to some extent to the Indian campuses. Imagine if your campus says as soon as somebody enters, I don't mean it that dramatically, but somewhere that welcome to the campus where the 50 patents have been filed in last 2 years by students of this campus. Wouldn't that be, something like a, shot in the arm for the students? I mean, they would love to get to that kind of, campus. So other way also, it can be monetized. It can be used for soft publicity or hard publicity, depending upon how you look at it. And of course, it can provide monopoly in the invention, right? I mean, if you know only way of solving some problem where others are grappling to do it because you are so such a strong researcher, then naturally you feel like you're on top of the world. And for a company also, it makes it feel that way. So it's important because patents are needed for this world. Patents give what we call as the vitamin tablet that you take to strengthen yourself in the form of that. So the researcher now gets motivated and he or she is willing to do more. And the quality bar can be raised up every time from one patent to another patent. And also, they attract a lot of investment. People are willing to pay money in it. And then, when money comes in, the whole picture changes as far as the basis of research and then the tangible outcome of the research. Of course, there are challenges, right? I mean, it's not easy to get a patent, number one. It's a time-consuming process. It costs money, and then it's a distraction. If you are a hardcore researcher, you'll have to do all this paperwork and get into the administration part. That is why, now under the Startup India, you have there is college can afford to have one now IP cell where there is a person he or she can help facilitate patenting or copywriting aspects as well. Patents might face legal challenges. People can question, dispute, and infringement. And I always been of this opinion. I mean, let's say you have a patent. It's great. I mean, it's good to have that. But if somebody copies it in India, what are you going to do? Are you going to get behind them? I mean, it's going to take so much of your bandwidth in terms of getting behind them, taking the legal course. But of course, that doesn't, I'm not implying that you shouldn't do, but these are all, what we call the flip side of getting a patent. So you need to achieve a balance, whether it is patentable or not. And I was told about 40 to 46%, I don't know this number right or wrong, of these patents have never seen a light of the day. That means people have filed patent and got the patent just because, they were, they wanted to get it. So I think, I will leave it up to you as far as your priorities are concerned, but it's important and it is critical for any individual campus or an organization to have patent because it drives the value in terms of financial aspect as well as the visibility aspect. So now I'm straight away coming to how all this can, the unlocking of innovation can be sort of looked into from a campus perspective. So please bear with me, because I think always anything that we do, unless it touches and impacts the students, I think it is, to me, it's of not much of an excitement. That's why I thought of putting in here. So what does this innovation, the researcher as far as a faculty, and then, the campus related innovations are also happening, the patterns have been, what is this got to do with students, and how can we take them into account, into confidence, and how teacher can be a pivot in this process, so that students will look up to him or her as a faculty who guided them at the critical juncture of their life. Now, I typically start with this. What do you see? I mean, a man going in the rain, right? Is there a problem? And could there be a possible solution? I mean, now I'm looking from a student's perspective, okay? Please don't mistake me for putting this in. One thing is you can enjoy it, right? I mean, getting wet in the rain is great. And of course, there is a raincoat, which you can, these are some of the solutions that I'm now talking about. Of course, there is an umbrella at the end of it. But the problem is, does the product has this problem? I mean, it's a solution, but in itself, does it have a problem? I'm slowly now trying to get into the frugal way of building the innovation process. So now, why it is? Because it can poke somebody. There are the steel, wires in there, or what you call as, ends in there, which can actually poke somebody and hurt somebody. During winds, what can happen? It typically can go flip itself and seems absolutely useless, though you intend to use it. So somebody thought that, okay, why don't we start using something like this? So, the scooter guy or the motorcycle guy or the car guy, splashing all the water on you, you have a solution. So now you see that the point that I'm trying to convey is, there is no absolutely great solution at any time in our lifetime, or anybody's lifetime. That means the products are always work in progress. And that's a great news to engineering fraternity, because this umbrella can look much different probably 100 years from now. We don't know how, but it probably would, right? So that shows that any product that we have at our hand, we don't have to say that, oh, that problem is solved. No, it isn't solved, because there are so many problems associated with it. So that gives us added push to pick any area of our choice and then excel in it in a manner that people have never imagined. So that is exactly how I intend to put it. And that's why I had to show that example to you. So now, this is what the campus can do. The campus actually can make a remarkable difference in terms of bringing the right kind of people, right kind of processes, right kind of resources, and right kind of environment, wherein the culmination of these will essentially opens up opportunities for students. And now faculty as a backbone of this process connects students to these opportunities, and then have them to start looking into how either the research or the integration of existing open source technologies, or any other means that they think is appropriate, they can create what we call as a business value. And today, there are a lot of funding available as far as taking on such in-house value creation is concerned. And if the campuses can start driving it, the problem that we saw at the beginning of my presentation, why India does so poorly in terms of having only 216 million getting into, or 2.16 million getting into PhDs, whereas other countries boast that they have 10 times more, is because the real joy of doing a research, they need to experience. And can campuses give during their undergraduate study? In fact, I want to push it to the school levels, because if the school levels, they feel the hunger to do different, to find something new, that will stay with them, and that can actually create researches or research efforts coming together, and the products come out can make real impact on the quality of the life that we all experience. So that is the purpose. Then I thought I should put this one in here. And some of the emerging trends and consideration, I think I'm almost done. Just one video is left, which I will have Nitin play later. So a lot of emerging trends have influenced the landscape of research, innovation, and patents that we all know and when we see around. Open innovation, where we collaborate on a common platform with diverse expertise. People coming from variety of backgrounds can come together. I think this FDP is one such example. Unfortunately, I won't be able to meet all of you in person, but if that was the case, I would be very happy to sort of mingle with all of you so that, we can connect. And this is what I call connecting dots. And then probably we can have something happen. That is, some of the things that, they're emerging and they're happening. Digital technologies are the absolute backbones of what we do, especially if you're doing in a technology domain, be it in AI or blockchain or biotechnology, any area that you take. And as the innovation becomes more and more general stream outcome, patent laws needs to be harmonized also. It has to be faster. It should be a lot more cheaper to file patents. And it should be easier for the researcher or the inventor to safeguard his or her hard-earned outcome through such innovative policies also. So those are also some of the considerations that are being looked into. But this is, in essence, says only one thing. Of course, research is the basis of innovation, but there are other ways we can be innovative about unlocking innovation. Right. And then and the part of this, we need to be a little bit more putting our guards down and say, hey, look, not everything is to be made visible. So, we will put some barriers in there in the form of, patents and trademarks and then copyrights and blah, 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 all those things. But at one point, this has to be what I call democratized. Few people having the eminence, people having the ability, few people only having the access to resource can do great. But imagine if this can be spread to larger landscape, including people who do not have the luxury of what these selected folks have. Imagine the outcome. It can be tenfold, hundredfold, and the outcome can actually make all of us feel so proud of our collaborative efforts. So that is where I think I would like all the faculty who are assembled here to walk away with. That individual contribution is absolutely needed, but collectively we can do a whole lot more. And engaging students can be, an added bonus, because, their energy, their enthusiasm, and their willingness to run with a problem statement is extremely important, and it can be contagious also. So naturally, many others will follow suit. So with that, I think I'm okay. So why did I put this slide? I will also be very clear in this. India is, in fact, this professor from Scotland University was there last week, 2 weeks ago in Pandharpur, and professor spoke about India is considered as one of the top nations across the globe where most innovations are expected to come from. Okay, I mean, it's a great news, he said. This is not just his opinion, it is substantiated by the data that they have processed at the university. But he said, however, the flip side of this is, India is also one of the top 5 nations that suffers most from the stigma of fear of failure. That means in India, as a society, as a part of our culture, we do not look at failures that, what you call, benevolently, that nicely. That, he says, can be a challenge for India going forward. So again, all the money for R&D, all the ecosystem provided, the policy support, technology education, clear problems, they all could be there. But if people are afraid to take a first step to see whether somebody is laughing at them or, how do they look at my failure, I think that will hold us back even more. No, the question is, how are you going to face this? We have to face the fear to come out of the fear. And that's what the next video, next in the final video is going to talk about. But that is the most important social behavioral change that we all have to exercise, experience, and encourage others. Because when we were kids, we were never afraid of failure. When we started walking, we fell so many times, but that never stopped us from standing up and then trying again. But suddenly something happens when we grow old and educated. Suddenly, should I be doing this mistake? What would others think? My thing is, who cares, right? I mean, we need to develop that kind of attitude towards life, so that people looking at us, they think that, well, he is not afraid, why would I be afraid? So collectively we need to do that. Otherwise, despite all these things being with us, we still would be celebrating only the successes, which of course will come, but we also need to understand what it takes to celebrate a failure, because we have learned something so important from that failure, which will eventually lead me to something which makes me successful. So with that, I will have Nitin. Can you just roll this video, Nitin, please?
Yeah, sure, sir. Okay, just a second.
That's the other video.
Yes, sir, sure.
How much time do we have? It's about 8. Okay, we have about 8 minutes video. I think
Yes,
you can just quickly run and see what happens.
Sure.
I will stop sharing it. Sorry.
Yes. Is it visible, sir?
Yeah, that's the one. Yes.
Okay. Can I play, sir?
Yes, please.
I'm going to talk to you today about creative confidence. I'm going to start way back in the 3rd grade at Oakdale School in Barberton, Ohio. I remember one day my best friend Brian was working on a project. He was making a horse out of the clay that our teacher kept under the sink. And at one point, one of the girls that was sitting at his table,
நான் அந்த ரெக்கார்ட போட்டோ எடுத்து அவள்கிட்ட சென்ட் பண்ண சொல்லிருக்கேன். அது எல்லாத்தையும் சொல்லிட்டு பாருங்க.
And Brian's shoulders sank. He wanted the clay horse and he threw it back in the bin. I kind of never saw Brian do a project like that ever again. And I wonder how often that happens, It seems like when I tell that story of Brian to my class, a lot of them want to come up after class and tell me about their similar experience, how a teacher shut them down or how a student was particularly cruel to them. And in some kind of opt out of thinking of themselves as creative at that point, right? And I see that opting out that happens in childhood, and it moves in and becomes more ingrained even by the time you get to adult life. So we see a lot of this. When we have a workshop and we have clients in to work with us side by side, eventually get to the point in the process that's kind of fuzzy or unconventional. And eventually these big shot executives whip out their Blackberries and they say they have to make really important phone calls and they head for the exits. And they're just so uncomfortable. When we track them down and ask them what's going on, they say something like, I'm just not the creative type. Well, we know that's not true. If they stick with the process, if they stick with it, they end up doing amazing things. And they surprise themselves just how innovative they and their teams really are. So I've been looking at this kind of fear of judgment that we have, that you don't do things, you're afraid you're going to be judged. If you don't, say the right creative thing, you're going to be judged. And I had a major breakthrough when I met the psychologist, Albert Bandura. I don't know if you know Albert Bandura, but if you go to Wikipedia, it says that he's the 4th most important psychologist in history, like Freud, Skinner, somebody in Bandura. Bandura's 86 and he still works with Stanford. He's just a lovely guy. And so I went to see him because he's just worked on phobias for a long time, which I'm very interested in. He had developed this way of this kind of methodology that ended up curing people in a very short amount of time. Like in 4 hours, he had a huge cure rate of people who had phobias. And we talked about snakes. I don't know how we talked about snakes. We talked about snakes and fear of snakes as a phobia. It was really enjoyable, really interesting. He told me that he'd invite the test subject in and he'd say, there's a snake in the next room, we're going to go in there. And to which he reported that most of them replied, hell no, I'm not going in there. Certainly if there's a snake in there. And Bandura has a kind of a step-by-step process that was super successful. So he'd take people to this like two-way mirror looking into the room where the snake was. And he'd get them comfortable with that. And then through a series of steps, he'd move them, they'd be standing in the doorway with the door open, and they'd be looking in there, and he'd get them comfortable with that. And then many more steps later, kind of baby steps, they'd be in the room, they'd have like a leather glove, like a wellness glove on, and they'd eventually touch the snake. And when they touched the snake, everything was fine. They were cured. In fact, everything was better than fine. These people who had lifelong fears of snake were saying things like, look how beautiful that snake is. And they were holding it in their laps. Right? Bandura calls this process guided mastery. I love that term, guided mastery. Right? And something else happened. These people who went through the process and touched the snake ended up having less anxiety about other things in their lives. Right? They tried harder, they persevered longer, and they were more resilient in the face of failure. Right? They just gained a new confidence. And Bandura calls that confidence self-efficacy, right? The sense that you can change the world and that you can attain what you set out to do. Well, meeting Bandura was really cathartic for me because I realized that this, famous scientist had documented and scientifically validated something that we've seen happen over, for the last 30 years, that we could take people who had a fear that they weren't creative, and we could take them through a series of steps, kind of like a series of small successes, and they turn kind of fear into familiarity. And they surprise themselves. The transformation is amazing. We see it in these schools now all the time. People from all different kinds of disciplines, they think of themselves as only analytical, and they come in and they go through our process, they build confidence, and now they think of themselves differently. And they're totally emotionally excited about the fact that they walk around thinking of themselves as a creative person. Right. So I thought one of the things I do today is take you through, and show you what this journey looks like. To me, that journey looks like Doug Dietz. Doug Dietz is the technical person. He designs medical imaging equipment, large medical imaging equipment. He's worked for GE and he's had a fantastic career. But at one point, he had a moment of crisis. He was in the hospital looking at one of his MRI machines in use when he saw a young family. There's a little girl. And that little girl was crying and was terrified. And Doug was really disappointed to learn that nearly 80% of the pediatric patients in the hospital had to be sedated in order to deal with this MRI machine. Right? And this was really disappointing to Doug because before this time, he was proud of what he did. He was saving lives with this machine. But it really hurt him to see the fear that this machine caused in kids. About that time, he was at the D School at Stanford taking classes. He was learning about our process, about design thinking, about empathy, about iterative prototyping. And he would take this new knowledge and do something quite extraordinary. He would redesign the entire experience of being scanned. And this is what he came up with. He turned it into an adventure for the kids. He painted the walls and he painted the machine and he got the operators retrained by people who know kids, like the children's museum people. And now, so when the kid comes, it's an experience. And they talk about the noise and the movement of the ship. And when they come, they say, okay, you're going to go into the pirate ship, but be very still because we don't want the pirates to find you. And the results were super dramatic. Right? So from something like 80% of the kids needing to be sedated to something like 10% of the kids needing to be sedated. And the hospital and GE were happy too, because you didn't have to call the anesthesiologist all the time, they could put more kids to the machine in a day. So the quantitative results were great. The Doug's results that he cared about were much more qualitative. He was with one of the mothers waiting for her child to come out of the scan. And when the little girl came out of her scan, she ran up to her mother and said, "Mommy, can we come back tomorrow?" And so I've heard Doug tell the story many times of his personal transformation and the breakthrough design that happened from it, but I've never really seen him tell a story of the little girl that got a ceiling design. He got a story that takes place in a hospital.
Nitin, you can stop here.
About hospitals. A few years ago, I felt a lump on the side of my neck,
Nitin,
and it was my turn.
you can just stop here.
It was cancer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I will just quickly see. Pretty much, I'm done with my presentation. I'm on the last slide.
Yes, sir.
Thanking all of the participants. So, if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to take. I think we have about 10 or 15 minutes. 10 minutes.
Yeah. Can we open for a question and answer, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sir. Okay. It's a request to all participants to take a part in a question and answer. I think it was a fantastic session. So I hope if you have any question, please be free to ask. Yeah, if you are dealing with some problem with the microphone, you can just chat in a chat box. You can ask there also. It will be also flexible. Yeah, please. If you have any question, be free to ask. Okay, may I ask question, sir?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just I think participant will also ask question. In between, I will ask some question. So actually, I am really curious about patents, sir. So what we can take a concrete step to get ahead for patents actually? Is there any platforms where we can get proper, what we can say, previous research in the case of patent? So any?
Yeah, there are a lot of online help is available.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of professional help is also available.
Okay.
The first curiosity that every researcher would have is there anything similar already in the market or in the patent domain, right?
Yes.
So you can actually go search similarities online. You can do that, comparison of existing patented products as against yours systematically on the Indian patents as well as the global patents. Okay. It's little time consuming because you are not experienced in looking for at the right places and the right kind of content. So that is when these patent lawyers can help you because they actually have a systematic process. That's a profession that they are into, so they will help out. So the first thing is you do your research, get your output, and then now you're ready to look into patenting. Now you need to start searching for the similar patents that are already been given, if there are any, and start looking. And now, if the similar patent is or similar kind of research product or a service is available and it's patented in US, let's say, but it's not done in India, you should be able to at least patent that in India. Okay. But when you go to US and if you want to get the US patent, then you probably would be a challenge for you because there is something similar already exists there. So there are a variety of ways this patenting can be looked into. And keep in mind, any activities that you add to the patenting process, the cost continues to go up. There is a minimum cost, for searching, there are minimum cost for filing, then there are queries coming in, you need to answer to those queries, and eventually after 18 months of waiting minimum, you will be able to get either a grant or otherwise. So naturally, it's a long drawn process. That is why professionals can help so that you can continue to stay focused on your project or research rather than worrying about the paperwork and other administrative work. Yes. But that's the typical process that it entails.
Okay. Thank you for answer, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. Please, from any participants, is there any question from participants? Yeah. I think we given sufficient time, sir. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Thank you again. I wish you all the best for all the participants and the FDP in itself, and hope this was useful. And I'm glad that I was a part of this program. And thank you so much for making me that. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Can I say something, sir? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Actually, as a part of this whole team, I would like to once again thank you. And really, it was a really fantastic session. You spoke about social innovation as well. Not only technical things, you spoke about social things along with that as an example of Akshay Patra. That was also a really fantastic thing that you shared. And there are things that you shared like that agricultural innovation also. And then research and innovation, there is a difference. Maybe some people don't know that much clear about that also. You spoke about that. And then patent and Nobel, you spoke about very nicely a comparative study about Nobel and patents. That kind of a quote we can put in front of colleges also. That can kind of thing we can implement in the future also. At least in our campus, we can think about that. And later on, you spoke about us at an initial level, we have to work on like a school level. That is, I think, most important thing. And like that, there are so many things you spoke about. And I just know what you shown that video also was really nice. He spoke about phobia, then how that fear we have to take away from us and go ahead in a case of a research. That was also really fantastic video, sir. And once again, from a family of a Sweri, I'm really thankful to you. And I hope we will be in touch in future also. And once again, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yes,
All
sir.
the very best.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, sir. Have a great time, sir.
Thank you, you too.
Yes, sir.